Hello, my name is Rob Garner. I'm a software development instructor, and today I'm going to demonstrate how to code in Unity with Visual Studio Code and GitHub. So today we're going to configure Visual Studio Code, create a GitHub repo, write and attach a script, run the project, and commit our work to source control. Okay, so I'm going to open up Unity, and if this is the first time, you'll be asked to sign in. And it will bring up a dialog. And it's going to ask you to agree to these terms. And then we're going to make our first project. So we're going to go into projects, create a new project. And there's different choices we can make here. We're going to make a 3D game, and we're going to use the core system here. The difference between these two is this universal one allows you to make games for all of these different platforms, including mobile, whereas the high definition one really doesn't give you that. It only works on higher end PCs, basically. So we're going to use the universal pipeline so that we can, one, these are lighter weight games for us to make. So if your system is not super powerful, this is helpful. And two, it's really nice to be able to deploy your game to Android. So I'm going to pick this, and I'm going to pick GitHub as my source provider. And in order to use GitHub, you need to get a personal access token. And what this is a way to connect Unity to GitHub. And this just allows Unity to talk to GitHub with a token. We're going to want this one. And you can pick what your expiration is. I'm going to make it 90 days. And then you're going to copy this token and authorize that token. Note, you're going to want to keep that secret. I'll be changing this one later. And I'm just going to call this one Hello World. Now, because it's going to be in an organization, I'm going to put my initials in it so that since we'll all have a Hello World in there, we can deconflict it with our initials at the end. And I'm going to click on additional configuration. So since we're using organizations, if you're in my course, then you don't want to have the owner be yourself, because then I can't see your code. If you're working with multiple people, you're going to want to use an organization. I'll have set that up. And when you click organizations here, you should see the organization for the course here if you're in my class. If not, you can use your personal repo. So that is now making this repo in the organization. I'm going to keep the repo private, and all this seems good. We're going to enable Git large file system. Because games have large files, we don't really want those to be stored in the regular repo. They take up a lot of space. And we'll make it create and do initial push. So we'll create that project. Okay. So once you click this, it will open up Unity itself. And this is the Unity development environment. Over on the left, we have a hierarchy, and this hierarchy lists all the things that are in the scene. The scene window is our 3D scene. There's not much in here right now. We can add things in here by hitting this plus. And so let's add a cube. And so now we have a cube in our scene. Now to navigate the window here, if you hold the middle mouse button and rotate left and right, you will pan back and forth and up and down. In order to rotate, you hold the right mouse button down and move your mouse, and that rotates around. So between rotating and panning, you can navigate around an object. So those two buttons with your mouse allow you to do most of the navigation that you need to do in Unity. You can also use the scroll wheel to zoom in and out. So scroll wheel, middle mouse button, and right mouse button give you what you need to do. So what I recommend is create that cube and then try to navigate around it and just get used to the controls. And then you might try going horizontally around it, or vertically, I should say, and just get used to navigating around it. You'll notice when you select an object that you can select the objects over in your hierarchy, and you get these little grab bars that you can use to move it around. These grab bars also, you have different modes. If you click on the rotate tool, you can rotate things. If you click on the scale tool, you'll get these scale bars that we can use to change the shape of things. And the rectangle tool allows you to control it from that perspective. There's also one that has everything in it so that you can work with everything all together if you wanted to. And then there's a bounding volume. That's the collision box. Usually you want that to stay in line with the container. We'll talk about collisions later. And then, yeah, if we just are there, we're just moving around the scene. You can also use Control Z to undo everything and get back to where you were. There's a limited number of undos that are available. Like I think we just went through them all. When you select an object on the right, you have the inspector. This shows you all the properties for the object. And these are properties just like you in a C# class, you have properties. So these are the main properties of this game object. The one that all of them will have is a transform, which has its position, rotation, and scale. You can actually position things precisely by using the transform here, and you can do some rotations in here and precisely control them there. You can also change scale. Note that the vertical scale in Unity is the y-axis, the z is considered forward, the x is considered left and right. And there are other things here which we will learn. Down at the bottom is your assets folder. If you right-click on it and show it in Explorer, it's basically what you have in this folder in the overall project. So this is our overall project. And then I forgot to rename it. It's okay. And then in here we have all of our assets. And that's what shows up here. You can see scene, settings. As we create things, we can create resources in here that we will then drag and drop into the scene. This sample scene is actually this one here. If I save this, this scene is what we're looking at right here. Now, the next thing we want to do is create a script. And to create a script, we'll go into, before we create a script, we want to use Visual Studio Code. If we make a script here, there's its own internal editor or uses Uno. We're going to, so we're going to go to Edit, Preferences, and in here we can specify what our external tools are going to be. So we'll find external tools, and right now this one does say Visual Studio Code. Notice that it can also say Visual Studio Community, and you can pick other ones too. But we're going to pick Visual Studio Code, and the rest of this should be okay. And we're going to attach a script to this cube. So we're going to go to this cube, right-click on it, and and then over here we're going to add component, and we're going to scroll down and we're going to add a new script. This one allows you to grab existing scripts. We want to make a new one. So we're going to make a new one, and we're just going to make a one that says hello world. And we're going to create an ad. We're going to want to save this in here. And so I'm going to make a new folder called scripts. And I'm going to save it there. You'll notice that that will create a scripts folder here, and our scripts folder actually shows up here. By the way, you can make a script this way by attaching it directly to an object, or you can make a script in your assets folder and drag and drop it on top. Once we're here, we want to edit it. We can just double click on this script, and it's going to open up Visual Studio Code for us, and it'll make it open. Now, when we're in Visual Studio Code, we're going to want to make sure that we have certain extensions installed. One is the C# Dev Kit, and I already have it installed, but in your case, if you don't have it installed, install that one. And then the other thing that we're going to want is the Unity extension. Oh, wait, let's see. This one's deprecated. Yeah, so this is the one we want. Yeah, so just look for Unity, and I already have it installed. So you'll want this one, the one by Microsoft. And once you have that, you'll notice that in GitHub, we can see everything that's in here. Some things to note. One is when we installed, when we had GitHub create our project for us, it brought in automatically a git ignore. This git ignore is very important because it ensures that only the things that we need are added to the repo. So before your first check-in, you need this git ignore. I recommend using the resources to do that automatically with the GitHub. But if you needed to, you could actually download this by going to GitHub, git ignore, blob main, Unity git ignore, and this is where this git ignore resides. The other file that's really important at this point is this git attributes file. This one configures our large file system. And let's see if we look in here, and you'll notice that all of the files that should be maintained by a large file system are maintained here. This is why we want to use GitHub to do this. If you're doing this manually, you need to go and install a large file system, and then go to here, GitHub, git attributes, blob master unity.git attributes, and this has this configuration as well. Otherwise, these files will inflate the size of your repo so large that you will probably not be able to download it. If you're in my course, you must have these in before your first commit. Otherwise, I won't be able to download your repo and grade it. I'll ask you to recreate the repo. To do that, and it just makes it easier. You need to have this git ignore and this git attributes in your Unity projects if you use GitHub. Okay, so what we're going to do is on the start here, we're going to do a debug.log hello world. So debug.log allows us to write to the Unity console, and we're going to learn a lot of coding later, but for now we're just going to say hello world. Every project has its hello world, so once we have that, we'll save it. And you can leave it open. We'll come back to here. And as soon as you come back to Unity, everything you've changed will be compiled and updated automatically. And so now if we look at this, we can see there's our code. We have it attached to the cube. Scripts will not run unless you have them attached. And then we can run our project. And you can see down here, it says hello world. You can also go to the console and see it says hello world. So congratulations, you've written your first game. It's just a cube that says hello. But that is basically how we code in Unity. Now, if we go back to here, one of the nice things about using Visual Studio is it has source control in here. And if you click here, you can actually open up the repo on GitHub, and you'll notice that this is all that gets saved to the repo, which is why you want that git ignore. If you didn't have it, this would be huge. If we go to our assets, you'll notice there isn't a script folder and there isn't a hello world one. So how do we get that pushed to the repo? These are all the changes that were made. So what we're going to do is we'll say added hello world script. We will commit. Now, once we commit, I'm going to refresh this. Notice that it's still not up here. Commit only commits it to your local machine. You now need to publish this branch. And then if I refresh, I'm on the main branch. I now have these scripts, and now I can see the code that I changed. So that updated my repo. And that will be the process you use. Once you're done, to turn this in, if you're in one of my courses, go to the top of your repo, go to code. This is what I need to grade your project, is just give me that reference. That's how I'll know that you've completed this tutorial. I do use some auto graders, and they will depend on a repo reference in that project name. Later on, we're going to be using different branches as well. So, for example, when you start working with this, I usually make a dev branch. So if I click on here and type dev, for example, this creates a new branch. If I publish that, I now have, let's refresh this. You can have multiple branches. If you are going to be wanting me to grade, I will by default always grade your main branch. If you do create a different branch that you want me to grade, use this link up here so that I get that reference. Otherwise, I'm going to go to your main branch and just grade your main branch. We'll talk about branches later. Okay, so once you complete that, if you're in my course, just upload that URL for your repo, and that's what I'll grade. Thank you very much.